Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, upgrading windows to help curb appeal and keep homes efficient. More at callmosby.com.
From the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this is The Gateway. It's Friday, May 30th. I'm Ola Kuziz. Federal relief is critical for St. Louisans to recover from this month's destructive tornado, but getting that relief to individuals often takes a lot of time.
There's a lot of anxiety in the whole process there's literally so many unknowns. Every day counts, especially in the community at large.
Coming up on The Gateway, St. Louis Public Radio's Jason Rosenbaum reports on how storm victims are frustrated with the wait for federal help. Also coming up, community members in the conservative town of Kennett, Missouri are rallying for the release of their neighbor, Carol Mayorga. The mother of 3 was arrested by ICE and awaits deportation to Hong Kong.
Something like this brings it home because it makes it personal.
That story from the Midwest Newsroom, coming up on The Gateway. Missouri National Guard members have arrived in St. Louis to work at debris dumping sites on the city's north side. St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Fenton has more.
Governor Mike Kehoe deployed about 40 troops as part of an ongoing effort to clean up destruction from the May 16th storms. St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer says they'll help coordinate the drop-off of yard waste, building materials, and other debris and transport it to landfills.
We recognize there is just an enormous amount of debris within communities. This is an option if you are able to move your debris here to get it off site rather quickly.
City workers and volunteer contractors will continue to remove waste being piled on curbs. The first site at Farragut Elementary in the Greater Ville is now open. 2 other sites in the Ville and 1 in the O'Fallon neighborhood will open soon. The debris dumping sites will be open for at least 2 weeks. I'm Sarah Fenton, St. Louis Public Radio.
The St. Louis County Animal Shelter is currently operating without a license after failing multiple inspections. Ownership of the shelter was transferred from the Animal Protection Association back to the county in February. Volunteers at the shelter testified at a county council meeting yesterday that the shelter's leadership is working on improvements, but the current facility is not suitable for the amount of animals being housed there. Sarah Foster volunteers at the shelter daily.
When we are in a state of animal welfare crisis right now, that we can rise to the occasion and we can take care of these animals. The facility that we have right now is not adequate.
Problems at the shelter include a parvovirus outbreak in April that was the worst in its history and led to the euthanization of 19 dogs. Teachers and staffers from East St. Louis School District 189 packed a public education town hall meeting last night to hear from national education leaders and Congresswoman Nikki Budinski. St. Louis Public Radio's Hiba Ahmed was there and has this report.
At East St. Louis Senior High School, National Education Association President Becky Pringle slammed the Trump administration for withholding pandemic-era federal funds from the district.
We know that the impact is closest to our students and our communities. As people in Washington are talking about our kids, we need to be able to talk about East St. Louis.
Pringle was joined by American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten and Representative Budinski in demanding the Trump administration release the money. The district lost access to $19 million after the administration announced it would no longer reimburse districts. The funds are for repairs to HVAC systems. It's unclear when they will be released. I'm Hiba Ahmed, St. Louis Public Radio.
And as the Senate debates President Donald Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill, Democratic U.S. Representative Nikki Budinski says she's hoping it runs into a buzzsaw in the upper chamber. Like all Democrats, the Illinois Congresswoman voted against the president's domestic legislation. Budinski says she's expecting some changes to the bill in the Senate, but she remains concerned.
So I think that they really should be starting over at the drawing board, hopefully in the Senate. But most importantly, I want to see our most vulnerable communities in those cuts to Medicaid and SNAP not happen.
Budinski calls the bill draconian and says it's financially irresponsible. She estimates 28,000 constituents in Illinois' 13 congressional district could lose health coverage if the Senate passes the bill. After a brief time off, Missouri lawmakers are returning to Jefferson City on Monday for a special legislative session. As St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Kellogg reports, one Senate Democrat is stunned Governor Mike Kehoe is calling lawmakers back to the Capitol.
The special session will tackle 3 areas of policy: storm relief, stadium funding for the Kansas City Chiefs and Royals, as well as some projects previously cut. In the last week of regular session, lawmakers failed to pass a bill that allows Missouri to help fund new stadiums. The legislation is likely to cost hundreds of millions. Democratic Senator Tracy McCreary says the governor's office is trying to make the stadium bill more palatable by combining it with the others.
They're trying to make this stadium funding scheme more presentable to the public, and they're trying to mask it in some kind of, empathetic community response to a storm. And I just think that the voters can see right through this.
Both Democrats and Republicans have voiced opposition to the stadium bill. In Jefferson City, I'm Sarah Kellogg, St. Louis Public Radio.
The interim head coach of City SC is promising an exciting style of soccer. David Critchley took over this week after the team fired Olaf Melberg. Critchley says he plans to immediately return the team to the aggressive mindset that made them successful in their inaugural 2023 season.
Try to bring back a game model and a style of play that will entertain the fans. It's about being aggressive without the ball. It's about getting the lines pushed up high. And then with the ball, we want the fans on the end of their seat. We want them to be entertained.
Critchley has been with the team since 2021 and was the head coach of the City 2 development squad this season. Critchley says his focus is on this Saturday's match against San Jose, but did not rule out pursuing the job on a permanent basis. Missouri's political leaders are united behind getting federal aid to victims of the May 16 tornado, but actually delivering critical assistance to people is often a slow and cumbersome process. St. Louis Public Radio's Jason Rosenbaum has more on what happens next.
Shahida Hudson felt a combination of luck and loss from this month's destructive tornado. Hudson's home in the Wells Goodfellow neighborhood didn't suffer catastrophic damage or lose power for a significant amount of time. Her aunt and uncle who live in the Ville weren't as fortunate, as the storm destroyed their home and car. Since the tornado did damage Hudson's siding, she plans on applying for Federal Emergency Management Agency individual relief. But Hudson and her family are facing a wait on President Donald Trump's administration to approve a major disaster declaration request that will unlock critical funds.
Until then, you're left in the elements. No clothes, no car, no transportation, no medical assistance, no transportation to follow-up visits, but you're still expected to show up to work. You're still expected to show up to school.
When disasters strike, state governors submit what's known as a major disaster declaration to the president. FEMA's individual aid program can provide money for home repairs, transportation needs, healthcare costs, and child care expenses. It also offers rental assistance, which could be vital for Kelly Wishman. The tornado wrecked Wishman's condo in DeBoliver Place so badly that she, her partner, and her dog may not be able to return for up to 2 years. Her insurance policy only covers 8 months of rent.
There's a lot of anxiety in the whole process of there's literally so many unknowns. Every day counts, especially in the community at large.
What Wishman is alluding to is how it typically takes weeks, even a couple of months, between when a natural disaster occurs and when a president approves a disaster declaration. Missouri's congressional delegation is hoping Trump will sign Governor Mike Kehoe's request for tornado aid faster. And while Trump rejected some requests for disaster aid since he returned to office, Kehoe says the fact that Trump backed his major disaster declaration for Missouri storms in March and April is a good sign.
Because of our federal delegation and their relationships they have with this administration, we're going to work as hard as we can to get those categories approved on those storms.
But there are other concerns. FEMA is operating with fewer employees after hundreds of full-time staff left either voluntarily or through layoffs. Evan Mix, a research scientist at the University of Washington, says it's a big unknown how a FEMA with fewer people will affect efforts to deliver aid.
I would be very surprised if cutting staff at that level did not impact service delivery.
In the meantime, Hudson, the Wells Goodfellow property owner, says that nonprofit groups, religious organizations, and private companies are bearing most of the burden now to deliver help to tornado victims. She says that assistance is helpful, but it's created what she feels is a lackluster response from governmental agencies.
It'll be left up to those of us who can still afford to be in this area to never forget and to remind them that we were alive when the response by the city and by the state left the neighbors and the community members, left the students, left the elderly to fend for themselves for a week.
The National Guard arrived in St. Louis this week to help remove storm debris, while city officials are continuing to organize local relief efforts. Keough is expected to soon ask for FEMA assistance that helps state and local governments pay for employee overtime and repairs to public buildings. I'm Jason Rosenbaum, St. Louis Public Radio.
Our Fred Ehrlich edited that report. In April, a mother from Kennett, Missouri, attended a routine immigration meeting to renew her documents, which allowed her to work in the U.S. Instead, she was arrested and placed in an ICE jail. Now her hometown is rallying for her release. The Midwest Newsroom's Kayvon Mansouri has this report.
Carol Mayorga appears via webcam from the Greene County Jail in Springfield, Missouri.
Hello.
Mayorga wears a muted green jumpsuit. She has black hair and thick-rimmed glasses. Mayorga has 2 sons, ages 14 and 12, and a daughter aged 7. Even from jail, she can't help but gush about them.
And my middle son, he make all straight A. He make top 10 on his class. My daughter, she love at school. I don't want to mix up their life. They're doing so good here.
Mayorga, whose legal name is Ming Liu Hui, fled Hong Kong in 2004 to escape domestic abuse. She then overstayed her visa. She applied for asylum in the U.S., but was denied in 2014. Still, the U.S. government allowed her to remain as she worked toward citizenship under an order of supervision. She attended regular check-ins in St. Louis to stay in good standing.
They handcuffed me and my waist, my leg, and take me in the van. And then the van was so dark. You cannot see anything.
Now she awaits deportation to Hong Kong. In Kennett, people know the 45-year-old Mayorga as a loving mother of 3, an involved parent at school, and a soccer mom at her kids' sporting events. Mayorga is also a server at John's Waffle and Pancake House. The restaurant is usually closed on Tuesdays, but today, owner Liradana Ramadani opens the doors to raise funds for her employee.
She never missed a day. Always upbeat, always smiling, never standing around, always just working, finding something to do, take care of people.
From 6 a.m. until close at 2 p.m., patrons stuff into the narrow diner, filling the well-worn booths and bar-top seats. Customers eat and sign a petition urging for Mayorga's return to Kennett. Some wear black t-shirts with yellow words that read "Bring Carol Home." Anita Garrison, one of Mayorga's regulars, made the shirts with her husband, Bud.
Her kids are into the sports, she's in the church, she's a very upstanding citizen as far as I'm concerned. And I think she deserves to be free with her kids.
Judy Casey and her husband Kevin sit in a booth. They're friends of Mayorga's. They're also supporters of Trump's immigration policies.
I think it's the sorriest thing I've ever seen. Don't get me started.
They're a little too radical about it. I mean, in her situation, look at the background of these people. If they're criminals and all, send them back. But in the case of this sweet lady, look at the last 20, 22 years or whatever.
Lisa Dry is a city council member in Kennett. Dry says Mayorga's detainment was a rude awakening for many in Kennett, where more than 80% of voters cast ballots for Trump in the 2024 election.
I do hear them ask questions about, well, surely this is a mistake, or what did she do wrong, or Carol's not a criminal, why is this happening to her? I mean, something like this brings it home because it makes it personal.
At the end of the day, John's Waffle and Pancake House raises $20,000 to aid Mayorga's children and any legal bills. Back in Greene County Jail, Mayorga can't believe the support she's received.
I'm so surprised that many people love me.
She doesn't know when she will be deported. She's worried about her children and if she'll end up on the streets of Hong Kong.
I'm scared for sure because I have nothing over there. I don't know where I can go.
Mayorga's lawyer, Raymond Balorci, says he's hopeful the U.S. Board of Immigration Appeals will issue a hold, preventing Mayorga's deportation. But he says Mayorga is just one of many immigrants fighting for a future in the U.S. For the Midwest Newsroom, I'm Kayvon Mansouri.
That report comes to us from the Midwest Newsroom. That's a collaboration including NPR and public radio stations in Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska, and a member of the Trust Project. The Gateway is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, a listener-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis. Music is by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Ola Kuziz, and from the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this has been The Gateway.